Welcome back to the Big Saturday Show. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is on her way to Asia, and China has a new warning tonight for her if she visits Taiwan after Chinese state media threatened to shoot down her plane if she got too close. Now, before she left, Nancy Pelosi did not address the threat or clarify specific plans for her trip. Listen.
It's a security issue for every member of Congress traveling, especially abroad. But for the Speaker, it is an additional security issue.
Today, Chinese state media threatening, quote, severe punishment actions on Taiwan if Pelosi visits, after calling Pelosi's planned visit to Taiwan an invasion and threatening forceful measures. The White House didn't want to address the threat on the House Speaker.
An official who is associated with Chinese state media is suggesting that if Speaker Pelosi tries to go to Taiwan, her plane could be shot down. Does the president have a response to that?
I know you're asking specifically about the rhetoric that we're hearing from China, but as it relates to the speaker's travels, it's something that we're just not going to speak to. Right now, that's a hypothetical.
All right, Anita, I'm going to go right to you. Okay. You follow the news. You've followed the news for many years. You've followed many administrations. Have you ever seen anything like this? No response to something. I mean, we've never seen China even use this kind of rhetoric before.
Yeah. No, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, it just really reminds me of when Donald Trump told North Korea what he would do if they threatened to launch missiles.
We actually have that.
Oh, we do?
We actually have that clip. So I think maybe so we can remind people what you're talking about.
Okay.
We'll play that right now.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly, power, the likes of which this world has never seen before.
Okay, Anita, so when you hear that contrast, do you miss him?
Well, that's not for me to answer. But, you know,
I knew that.
I think people do miss a response,
That's right.
a strong response from the White House, because this is really dangerous, what China is saying. I mean, the mere fact that a country would threaten to shoot down a plane carrying the third most important politician in our country, the third in line for the president, is crazy.
And his friend, by the way. His friend is Nancy.
Nancy is his friend. Yeah, I'm disappointed, and I think the White House needs to say something about it.
So there was another thing that happened that was really interesting, Joe, is that then the White House was asked, well, did you bring up the fact that they have Uyghur slaves? Did you bring up any of the human rights abuses? And the White House said, well, of course we did. We always do that. And then the Chinese foreign minister said, pure lies, end quote. They said, that's a lie. We've never seen that happen before either.
Wow. Who do you trust in this situation? The Chinese or the Biden administration that seems to be allergic to the truth very often? What's amazing about this is, now this is how you know, guys, that the world is turned upside down. Republicans are staunchly defending Nancy Pelosi on this trip, and Democrats we're barely hearing from. But in the end, I think one thing that we're kind of overlooking here is what exactly is the purpose of this trip? What does Nancy Pelosi hope to accomplish? What are the goals? In other words, we know she's going, obviously, from all this news, but why is the House Speaker now, July 2022, going to Taiwan? What's she going to come back with to improve the situation? This only seems to be making things worse, but we shouldn't allow the Chinese to dictate what our lawmakers do, regardless of whether they're Democrat, Republican, House Speaker, House Minority Speaker, House Majority Speaker.
Can I jump in on that real quickly?
Of course, yeah.
Well, I think this does a lot for a potential Nancy Pelosi legacy, right? How old is she? She's in her early 80s now?
83 this year.
Okay. Doesn't have too much longer in office. And what a nice way to ride out, right?
And she's also had a history of, she went to Tiananmen Square.
Yes, she did.
And she rolled out a banner in support of the protesters. So she does have that history. You're right. It could be a power legacy move. What do you make of this? But also the fact that, one, the White House, according to Tom Cotton, the White House leaked that she was going. Go ahead.
No, precisely. No, what's so absurd about the fact that the White House is refusing to comment on this right now is that the White House, they were the ones that leaked their dissatisfaction with Nancy Pelosi doing this in the first place. So it suits them to comment on this when they want to shiv somebody in the back, but not when you actually have a threat from the Chinese government. The second thing that is, I guess, actually, sort of the most amazing part of all that, this is not the most important conflict that we have with China today. Mm-hmm. The real conflicts that we have with China are huge issues, such as their response to the COVID, the virus from Wuhan in the first place, their unfair labor practices and everything that they've done, including the Uyghur slaves, what they're doing to undermine fair trade in this country. And, of course, the most important thing is the fentanyl crisis in this country. These are the issues that we should be talking about. This trip is sort of, and I get it, it's important, but it's kind of window dressing when you compare it to these very serious issues that this administration is not confronting China on at all.
And I think that brings up the question: why hasn't Joe Biden on any of those issues confronted China? And I'm sorry, I think we have to talk a little bit, and it's necessary to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop, about the way this president could potentially be compromised by the dirty deals and the enrichment of his family through those deals.
I think it's without a doubt. And when you look at the hot spots around the world, whether it's China or it's Ukraine, it's not in my mind, and I realize that I can't prove this, but it is sort of interesting that every one of these hotspots where the administration is either failing to act or, in the case of Ukraine, sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, these are the places where his son had these business arrangements, very lucrative business arrangements, of which the president himself was a part. Yeah. And you can't ignore that.
You can't ignore that, and you can't ignore the role of the media in having covered that up before the American people made the decision in the last presidential election.
And Rachel, Charlie made one great point before about fentanyl, because people have to understand that they say, well, it's coming through the U.S. southern border. It's produced in China. Mm-hmm. It's then sent to Mexico, and now it's killing a record number of Americans between the ages of 18 and 49. In fact, it's the leading killer of Americans between 18 and 49, and the president barely says the word.
And, Joe, we had a DEA agent on Fox and Friends who told us that he believes it is part of the Chinese strategy to send it here, to poison our children, and to cause this kind of horrible disruption that it has in our country. So there's that as well.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.